Hey fellow gaming enthusiasts, searching for the perfect GPU for your 1440p gaming needs? Look no further. Today I've got the inside scoop on the best GPUs for 1440p gaming that'll give you not just the best bang for your buck, but the best gaming experience possible. Stick with me till the end and you won't be disappointed. I've dedicated a lot of time researching, testing, and compiling this list so you can trust you're getting reliable and honest advice. Price information and all graphics cards mentioned in the video are available in the description. Let's dive right in. Number 3. Sapphire Pulse RX 6700 XT. Best budget GPU for 1440p gaming. The demand for a powerful GPU near the $300 price point that is decent for 1440p gaming is now higher than ever before. The AMD RX 6700 XT is a graphics card that has stepped up as the budget champion for 1440p gaming, especially now that it is consistently available for around $300 to $350. The Sapphire Pulse RX 6700 XT is the most affordable RX 6700 XT, but it's not just on the cheaper side. It's also one of the highest quality RX 6700 XTs thanks to its full array aluminum heatsinks and requires a standard 8-pin and 6-pin PCIe connector for power. In the looks department, it doesn't go for anything fancy. The dark gray aesthetic easily fits in with any PC setup, but it won't impress anyone. What's great, except that it's the cheapest RX 6700 out there, is that even with only 2 fans, it does a great job at keeping temperatures around the mid-60s to low 70s Celsius, even during long gaming sessions. However, to save some money, Sapphire did not include any RGB and went with plastic for the fan cover instead of metal. Thankfully, the shroud is hard plastic, which is strong enough to withstand any light damage that cheaper plastics cannot handle. The backplate is also made of plastic and offers no cooling to the VRMs on the back of the PCB. Overall, the build of the card is decent and gets the job done, but I would advise extra care when handling it. Looking at the specs, the RX 6700 XT is paired with a 12GB VRAM buffer that is connected to a 192-bit bus. The 192-bit bus may be an area of concern, especially since you need a wider bus width to accommodate higher resolutions. However, thanks to the massive 96MB L3 cache that AMD calls Infinity Cache, the resultant bandwidth is an impressive 384GB per second. In terms of performance, the 6700 XT can easily run AAA games like Doom Eternal, The Last of Us, The Witcher 3, Remnant 2, and Elden Ring at 1440p resolution and give you 60 plus frames per second in all of these titles. Only the most demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077 will run at 1440p with around 40 frames per second, so you'll need FSR to increase the frame rate above 60 frames per second. Any esports title will have no issue running at 120 frames per second or higher even at maximum visual settings. That means even 240 frames per second gaming is possible at medium or high settings in games like Counter-Strike 2, Dota 2, League of Legends, Valorant, and Rainbow Six Siege. If we take a look at the direct competition with the RX 6700 XT, NVIDIA has the RTX 4060 Ti, Intel has the Arc A770, and AMD the newer RX 7600. All of these GPUs perform very well at 1440p, but where the RX 6700 XT shines is that it is really balanced in terms of specifications. Except for the Arc A770, the rest have 8GB VRAM connected to a narrow 128-bit bus. The A770 is impressive in terms of specs, but Intel has some serious work to do with their drivers. In conclusion, if you need a GPU that will perform on par and last as long as the Sony PlayStation 5 for excellent 1440p gaming and is affordable, the RX 6700 XT is the obvious choice. Our rating for PCB design is 8 out of 10, aesthetics and cooler design 7 out of 10, value for money 9 out of 10, for an overall rating of 8 out of 10. Number 2. Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 7900 XTX. Best premium GPU for 1440p gaming. My premium pick for the best 1440p gaming GPU may seem odd at first. However, if for any reason you decide to stick with 1440p for a very long time, then you need the most powerful GPU that can handle games at that resolution for many years to come. So if I were in that situation, I would get the Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 7900 XTX as my gaming GPU for the next decade. The RX 7900 XTX is a 4K gaming card, so the performance headroom means that it will be ideal for any 1440p gaming now and for the foreseeable future. This is currently AMD's fastest gaming GPU, and it comes with 24GB of VRAM, making it quite well equipped for any 1440p gaming. The Sapphire Nitro Plus is almost always my favorite variant of any AMD card, and the Sapphire Nitro Plus 7900 XTX is AMD's peak offering. The card is massive, and even though Sapphire says that it is a 3-slot card, it is slightly bigger than that, so make sure that you have at least 4 slots free in your case to fit this behemoth. The triple fan configuration is my favorite part of the Sapphire Nitro Plus cards because they are very easy to remove in case you need to clean or replace them. The card requires a lot of power to run, but thankfully it uses 3 standard 8-pin PCIe connectors for power instead of a different connector. There is also a massive RGB strip on both ends of the card for anyone who is interested in a light show. The design may be too flashy for some people, but you cannot deny the incredible build quality. Taking a deeper look at the PCB and cooler itself, the Sapphire Nitro Plus 7900 XTX stays cool at sub 60 degrees Celsius temperatures. The PCB has fuses that protect the GPU in case of a power surge that could destroy the entire card. This is an incredible feature that other graphics card manufacturers should start adding to their products. Looking at the specs, the RX 7900 XTX is paired with a 24GB VRAM buffer that is connected to a 384-bit bus. The 384-bit bus, combined with the 96MB L3 cache that AMD calls Infinity Cache, results in a whopping 960GB per second of bandwidth. In terms of performance, the 7900 XTX can easily run any AAA game like Starfield, The Last of Us, A Plague Tale Requiem, Remnant 2, and Elden Ring at 1440p maximum settings and give you more than 100 plus frames per second in all these titles. Even when pushing the RX 7900 XTX with the most demanding games like Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, you will easily run at around 120 frames per second. There is absolutely no need to worry about playing any esports title on this GPU if you want to use it for 300 frames per second ultra-high refresh rate gaming at 1440p at medium settings. If we take a look at the direct competition, the RX 7900 XTX sits in the middle of the RTX 4070 Ti and RTX 4080 in terms of price. It regularly squares off against the RTX 4080 in terms of performance, and in really extreme cases, the RX 7900 XTX will be able to pull ahead if a game needs more than 16GB of VRAM. NVIDIA clearly has the upper hand when it comes to ray tracing, but that is pretty much it. In conclusion, if you need a GPU that will last you a decade at 1440p, the RX 7900 XTX is the way to go. You can even dabble with some 4K gaming or downsample games from a higher resolution down to 1440p for an even more detailed experience. Our rating for PCB design is 9.5 out of 10, aesthetics and cooler design 8 out of 10, value for money 7 out of 10, for an overall rating of 8.5 out of 10. Number 1, best overall, Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 7800 XT. 1440p is shaping up to replace 1080p as the mainstream resolution. For my number 1 spot, there were a lot of candidates from this generation and the last generation from all 3 GPU manufacturers, AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA. We're seeing tremendous competition and value at the $500 price point. Although I could have picked any card, the RX 7800 XT stood out as my final choice for anyone looking to buy the best 1440 GPU for now and for many years to come. The RX 7800 XT is the best value new generation GPU released yet from either NVIDIA or AMD, and the specs and performance show for it. VRAM is one area that has become quite a concern for gamers, as 10GB is barely cutting it for 1440p gaming these days. Thankfully, AMD has equipped the RX 7800 XT with 16GB of GDDR6 VRAM, so even the highest quality assets can easily be loaded without any performance loss. Also, over the past few generations of GPUs, I've noticed that bus widths have started to shrink to make the GPUs more energy efficient, and while the 256-bit bus on the 7800 XT looks narrow, both AMD and NVIDIA have increased L2 or L3 caches on their GPUs to compensate for this exact concern. Thanks to the substantially bigger L3 cache and fast GDDR6 speeds, the RX 7800 XT has an impressive 624.1 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. Taking a look at the Sapphire Nitro Plus RX 7800 XT, it is a massive 3-slot card with a triple fan configuration. The Sapphire Nitro Plus cards have one of the smartest fan designs because they're easy to remove in case you need to clean or replace them. The entire PCB is cooled with a full array aluminum vapor chamber and a massive RGB strip on top of the card, which may be a tad flashy for some people. Taking a deeper look at the PCB and cooler itself, the Sapphire Nitro Plus 7900 XTX stays cool at sub 60 degrees Celsius temperatures. The PCB has fuses that protect the entire card in case of a power surge that could potentially destroy it. When compared to the RTX 4070 for gaming, the RX 780 XT offers slightly better performance for around $100 less. Even in heavy titles like The Last of Us, Hogwarts Legacy, and Cyberpunk 2077, the RX 7800 XT can give 60 plus frames per second at 1440p maximum settings. It will lose to the RTX 4070 when ray tracing is turned on because NVIDIA has a clear advantage in that regard. Still, AMD is improving on that that, and the RDNA 3 based GPUs offer a massive improvement in ray tracing compared to RDNA 2. The RX 7800 XT is also the perfect choice if you want to play esports titles at 1440p, 144Hz or higher. The card has 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM, which means that if it came down to needing more VRAM, the RTX 4070 with 12 gigabytes of VRAM would start to struggle and would require reducing settings to compensate. RX 7800 XT is a very high quality card, and it's hard to criticize Sapphire in any way for its excellent cooler. My only nitpick is that compared to the reference design by AMD, it is a significantly larger card, and instead of taking advantage of the size, Sapphire did not add more ports at the back. Even one more HDMI port would have been great. In conclusion, if you need the best overall GPU for 1440p gaming, then there is no better deal than the AMD RX 7800 XT, and Sapphire's Nitro Plus is the best variant in the market. I predict that if Microsoft or Sony refresh their consoles to a pro lineup, their performance will be in line with this GPU. Our rating for PCB design is 9.5 out of 10. Aesthetics and cooler design, 8.5 out of 10. Value for money, 8 out of 10, for an overall rating of 9 out of 10.